When I first started learning English, it was like trying to solve a puzzle where all the pieces were scattered everywhere. I'd study vocabulary, listen to podcasts, watch movies in English, but something just didn't click. After months of practicing, I was still stuck in that same place. And it's frustrating, right? You practice, you put in the effort, but you don't see results as quickly as you hoped. It can feel like you're just going in circles. But here's the thing. I eventually realized that improving my English wasn't about practicing more, but practicing smarter. And today, I want to share the most important lessons I learned, the things I wish I knew when I first started. These are the things that made all the difference for me, and I truly believe they will help you too. So, if you're serious about improving your English, keep listening because these tips might just change the way you practice forever. First off, let's talk about something that almost everyone misses when they're practicing English. Focus on listening more than speaking at first. It might sound strange, right? I mean, we all want to speak perfectly, especially when we're learning a new language. But here's the thing. You can't speak well if you can't understand what's being said in the first place. It's like trying to build a house without a solid foundation. When I started focusing more on listening, everything started to click. I listened to podcasts, songs, and watched movies without subtitles. At first, I barely understood anything. But over time, I began to notice small improvements. My brain was getting used to the rhythm of the language, the intonation, and the way sentences were structured. I learned to listen for meaning, not just individual words. And trust me, this is something you need to start doing if you want to improve your English in a real, lasting way. Another thing I want to mention is, don't be afraid of mistakes. This is something I used to worry about all the time. Whenever I spoke, I was so focused on making everything perfect that it made me afraid to speak at all. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process. The more mistakes I made, the more I learned. It's only through those errors that you realize how to get better. The moment I stopped being afraid of speaking incorrectly was the moment I started improving the most. Sure, I still made mistakes, a lot of them, but it was okay because I was learning. And that's what practicing is all about. Not perfection, but progress. So, if you're too scared to speak, just remember, mistakes are your friends. Now, I want to talk about something that might surprise you. Don't focus too much on grammar. I know it's probably the last thing you want to hear when you're learning English. We all think that grammar is everything, right? But here's the thing. The more you focus on grammar, the less natural your speaking and listening will sound. Think about it. Native speakers don't consciously think about grammar every time they talk. They just speak. Instead of obsessing over perfect grammar, start focusing on communication. Try to get your message across, even if your grammar isn't perfect. If someone understands you, you've succeeded. And that's the goal, isn't it? To be understood? When I shifted my focus from being perfect to just being clear and understandable, it was a game changer. My confidence grew, and I could speak more freely without getting caught up in every tiny mistake. The next thing I learned, and it might sound a little obvious, but practice every single day. It doesn't have to be hours of practice. Just 15 to 30 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Consistency is key. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. The reason I improved so quickly in just 7 months is because I made English a part of my daily routine. Even if I didn't feel like it, I would listen to something in English every day or repeat phrases aloud to practice my pronunciation. And here's another thing. Use what you learn in real-life situations. If you're only practicing with textbooks or online lessons, you might be missing out on the most important part of learning a language, using it in real life. When I started talking to people in English, even though I wasn't perfect, it forced me to apply everything I'd been learning. And that's when the magic happens. You'll start learning things you can't learn from a book, like how people really speak and the shortcuts they take in conversation. So start practicing with people, even if it's just online at first. Find language partners or join online communities where you can speak with others who are learning too. The real-world practice is where you'll see the biggest improvement. Lastly, something that took me a while to realize, be patient with yourself. It's easy to get frustrated when you don't see immediate progress. Sometimes the hardest part of learning English isn't the words, the grammar, or even the listening. The hardest part is the mental game. The doubts that creep in when you feel like you're not improving fast enough, or when you compare yourself to others who seem to speak perfectly. I used to do this all the time. I'd look at someone who had been learning English for a while, and they'd speak so fluently, and I'd feel like I was never going to reach that level. But the reality is, everyone learns at their own pace. It's easy to fall into that trap of comparison, but it's a waste of energy. The truth is, no one cares if you make mistakes. The only person that's keeping track of your progress is you. And you're the one who should be proud of every single step you take, no matter how small. It's all part of the journey. That brings me to the importance of setting realistic goals for yourself. It's great to have big dreams of speaking fluently, but if you don't set small, achievable goals along the way, you're going to get frustrated. And that's when you might want to quit. Trust me, I've been there. Setting goals doesn't mean you have to aim for perfection, but aim for progress. Maybe your goal is to learn 5 new words a day, or to practice speaking for 10 minutes without stopping. It's these small wins that keep you motivated and remind you that progress is happening, even if it feels slow. And don't forget to celebrate those wins. Celebrate the small victories along the way. I used to think that I could only celebrate when I reached the end goal of speaking fluently. But now I know better. Every new word, every conversation I held, every time I understood a movie without subtitles, those were all reasons to celebrate. They were all part of the process. And when I started celebrating those little milestones, I noticed my confidence grew, and I felt even more motivated to keep going. Now, let's talk about something that changed the way I saw language learning altogether: immersing yourself in English as much as possible. I used to think that if I just sat with a textbook for an hour a day, I'd eventually improve. But that wasn't enough. When I started to immerse myself, that's when I began seeing real progress. And immersion doesn't mean living in an English-speaking country. You can immerse yourself in English in small, everyday ways. For example, try switching your phone's language to English, or follow English-speaking accounts on social media. Listen to music in English. Watch YouTube videos. Not just for learning, but for entertainment too. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more natural it becomes. You'll start thinking in English without even realizing it. And that's when the magic happens. You stop translating everything in your head, and you just understand. This brings me to something that might sound a bit odd, but learn to love English. Not just because it's something you have to do, but because it's something you want to do. The moment I started enjoying English for what it was, rather than seeing it as a chore or a task, things started shifting for me. I'd listen to English podcasts because I enjoyed the topics, not just because I wanted to learn the language. I'd watch movies because I loved the stories, not just because I needed to hear English. When you start loving the process, learning English stops feeling like a struggle. Instead, it becomes a part of your life, something you enjoy and look forward to. And when you enjoy something, you stick with it longer. That's when your progress becomes more natural and less forced. And here's another important thing I learned along the way. You don't need to understand every single word. In the beginning, I'd get frustrated because I didn't understand every single word in a conversation or in a movie. But I learned that this wasn't important. If you understand the general meaning, that's all that matters. Don't get caught up on the small details. Even native speakers don't understand every word all the time. They focus on context, tone, and the bigger picture. And you can do the same. So, next time you're listening to something in English and you don't understand a word, don't stress. Keep listening, focus on what you do understand, and let the context guide you. This will help you get better at guessing the meaning of unfamiliar words, and over time, your vocabulary will grow without you even realizing it. Another thing that was key to my improvement was finding a language partner. This is something I highly recommend. It's not just about learning vocabulary and grammar, it's about practicing in real conversations. I found someone to speak English with every week. At first, it was awkward. I didn't want to make mistakes. But as time went on, I got more comfortable. And the best part? I started to look forward to our conversations because it gave me a chance to use what I had learned in a real situation.